Welcome to that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions you're asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records. Akashic, we laughing, we drafting the passion to vary. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Consciousness is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magicless, passing it. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers? What? All the answers.
How's it all going with Denise?
Good. We're being very domestic right now because I'm house sitting.
Oh, fun.
Which I've been doing a lot. I feel like I house sit and pet sit for my brother and his family a lot. But it's an opportunity to like go stay in a place. And yeah, so we're having a couple of days of being domestic, and then she goes off and does her rest of her life. And I also hang out for a few more days and be alone, which is great.
That's wonderful. That's so great.
You know, because I live in a house with a lot of people. So like I'm never alone in a space.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot. I couldn't do that at all.
No.
I give you credit for surviving that.
Oh my God. Yeah. I've never known you to live with people ever. The whole time I've known you.
Trying to think if I have ever since I've known you. Probably not. I don't think so.
Yeah. And you never moved in with people when you were, that I knew, that you were seriously with for a little while.
Oh, boyfriends?
Yeah, those friends, those people.
No, I would like stay with them a lot, but none of them moving in business.
Very different. It's completely. I get it. I understand. I go back and forth with that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But then I'll have an experience with like, even with my housemates, where I'll just like almost be tearfully grateful that I have housemates.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
I'll be like, fuck, I wish I had my own space. And then something will happen. I'll just be like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. I'm so full of gratitude right now. Oh God, it's so good. So
I never, ever, ever have a back and forth on this topic.
You're firm.
Yeah, I just don't have, I want to have people in my life, and I definitely don't want them at my house.
Have you ever lived with a partner?
With a partner? No, I'd live with my partner. I would do that if I got to that place with someone, with the right person, I would totally live with a partner. But I'm not living with like people.
Just people who aren't inside me.
No, definitely not. Never, no. I've had roommates, which is how I learned never to do that again. I mean, it'd be cool. Like, you have a great situation. I don't feel like I want it, but I think if I were going to do it, it would be a version of what you have, which is like, you guys have great people, and I guess, is this true? Like, you guys are pretty choosy, right? About who comes in. You don't just be like, he has the money, he can move in.
Yeah, for the most part. We've made a few mistakes in the past, but yeah, but barely. Yeah. And in fact, every time, even when we've done like a serious like interview process, but it was a stranger, but then we did a serious interview process and we let that person in, that's the one that doesn't work out. Like everybody who has survived has come from community.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Like even like Honey Lure, I didn't know prior.
Yeah.
But like she was sort of in community with another housemate in work. And also I knew her sister. So she was still in our community.
That makes sense. That's so cool. To me, that's like a spiritual thing. That's like, come. If someone's like in your community, they resonate with you, right? And then
exactly.
There you go. So my neighbors out here in Colorado have created a stand outside, like a farm stand that's like at the end of my driveway. And it's there, we share the property. So it's like right in my house. It's like right outside, there's a farm stand, fresh made bread, fresh eggs right out of the chicken's butt, cookies she makes herself. She's putting like soap that she made with her hands, like all kinds of just amazing, I'm at home, homesteading, doing cool shit. It's right there. So I keep being like, God, I got to make a trip into town for fill in the blank. And then I'll be like, no, I don't. I just go outside.
Holy moly.
Isn't that?
And are you getting a little discount or anything?
Well, I mean, they're so affordable. Like it's not yeah. So like it's eggs that are like big, huge eggs that are warm and brown and green and different colors, because they're.
Yeah.
And they're like $4. And I'm not eating sugar. So I'm not buying the cookies, but the cookies are enormous and they're $2, which I think is very affordable. She put coffee out there the other day after I texted her and said, I have been off espresso. By the way, I've been off espresso for 15 days and sugar, which is like a huge deal in my life because the lady.
Does being off espresso mean you're off coffee
Look, I
entirely?
have 2 teas right now. 2. Green tea.
Do you have a fizzy
black
water,
tea,
a bottle
2
of fizzy
teas.
water on the other side, and then a still water on the other side of that? Okay, I have to describe it for the listeners. Literally everything I described occurred. Katie lifted one sippy water in one hand, and then I said the other one, and another sippy water in the other hand, and 2 coffees. It's like you can't even be bothered to turn completely with one hand. You're like, I got a set from my right hand and a set from my left hand.
Yeah, I have a green tea here. I have a black tea there. I have flat water. I have sparkling water. I have all the things I need.
Okay, so I've gone out to dinner and lunch and stuff with my friend Katie a whole bunch of times. This is me talking about you in the third person.
Mhm.
And we actually talked about this. You said this is recovery behavior often. I think you mentioned that. To order 7 things for one thing.
No, it's more, I got it from Access Consciousness, but go ahead. You tell me.
Oh, that's what I remembered you saying. I'm always, because I have another friend who is also in recovery or was in recovery or is in recovery in that sense. I'd say you no longer probably place yourself in that category, but you come from that reality.
I do come from that reality.
And she also does this. She orders 3 different kinds of drinks. If if you're at Thai restaurant, it's going to be 4 dishes, even though you're only going to eat a little of each one. Because that's what I need.
Yeah, all the flavors.
Maybe it was her that said that to me because I said, oh, my friend Katie does this. And she was like, is she in recovery? And I was like, she has been. And then she was like, here, let me tell you.
And what was her reasoning?
That's a common that's a common thing in people who sort of live in the addiction world in some way. That it's
makes
serving
sense.
some end without serving the abuse end.
That's true. I think a part of it is like when you don't abuse your body with alcohol and drugs regularly and you have none of that as an option, you become more sensitized to like, what does your body actually want and need in the moment? And sometimes the moment says, I want 6 different things. So if you get the 6 different things, you get to taste all the little nips of all the things, and then you're happy.
Yeah.
Or you can do what the culture says, which is a great transition into what I think some of the cool stuff I'm looking forward to talking to our guest today about, because I looked into his particular brand of woo.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very excited to talk to him about it. The Michael teachings.
Yeah.
I looked into that. So that's like a being in another dimension that just like Ra. And then the other one that, no, I can't think of it. Seth is another one. And there's another one that, the very popular one that I can't think of. Anyway, you get the idea. Beings that like are in other dimensional realms that have information for humans that people can channel these beings. And actually, of course, because I'm me, now I'm like, oh, I want to channel Michael. So maybe
I'll try and find him in the Rolodex.
It's not hard. I mean, I've channeled, who did I channel in LA? I channeled Sam Kinison. That was interesting.
Did you shout a lot?
It was uncomfortable.
I can only imagine. That man seems like he was uncomfortable in his body all the time.
Oh, yeah, it was uncomfortable. He's not as shouty on the other side, but the energy is very like tight and intense. Anyway, a bunch of dead comedians I've channeled. And I feel like if you can channel a dead comedian, I can handle a light being. Light beings are easy. I channel them all the time.
I mean, it could be argued that some comedians are probably part light being, or they've got an element of, because they're usually, we've talked about that a lot, that comedy is like a spiritual,
of course,
phrasing of concepts.
But a light being is very different from a human comedian.
Yeah, it's a different thing entirely.
Yeah, light being is like they've transcended the human condition and they live in a whole different dimension. Like Sam Kinison did not transcend the human condition.
No, he very much lived in it.
Even though he's not in human form, he didn't his soul didn't evolve past needing to come back. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so I'm excited to be with this energy, Michael, and I'm excited to talk to your friend about it. But wait, the transition we were saying, I lost the transition.
Damn it.
What were we talking about? We were talking about, you always remember stuff.
I know. I must be high. No, we were talking about addiction behavior. And then you were about to say, I have a theory. No, you talked about that theory. Serving the need of the self, being more in touch with our bodies and their needs. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Anyway, very
Doesn't
cool. I'm
matter.
excited to see about this Michael stuff. Also, I was on a podcast yesterday with some folks that were very interesting. It's an Enneagram podcast.
Ooh.
And so
Which one?
It's called Kindred Spirits.
Okay.
And we're going to have the host, Chris, on our podcast soon, because he was a fascinating dude. He's a Methodist Christian pastor.
Yeah, very common in the Enneagram world. There's a lot of Christian Enneagram work, I hear.
Yes, because it's sort of like the one typing thing that the Christians are open to, because I think it was brought through by a Christian person.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I think that's true. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's framed up with the 7 deadly sins often and associated.
And we had an amazing conversation, like amazing. And mostly what made it amazing, and we can get into it when he's here, but was just like my thing. I'm just like really always in love with when all the people from all the different studies and traditions and worlds discover through chit-chatting that we're all looking at the same stuff and for the same stuff, and it's all the same, except for the people who obviously are like looking for separation and working through ego. I'm saying people.
No, this is the way it's framed, and that's the only way it's framed.
Yeah, exactly. Like control.
Look at the common themes here.
Well, control and rigidity. And because he brought up the point that like, yeah, but certain Christian sects, I would really disagree with their da-da-da. And I go, yeah, but we're talking about the groovy ones, the people that are like Jesus. Like if you're doing anything at all that's like inclusion and love and togetherness and insight and ascension, that's Jesus. It's also Muhammad. It's also Buddha. It's also all the people who taught all the things. Anyway, so every conversation we would have, he'd be like, tell me your story of how you became a whatever. And as I'm telling it, he's like, I had a similar experience. I woke up in that way too. Me too. I had a desperate blah, blah, blah. We had just like tons of parallel stuff on our paths. And yet I love that like the teaching role, like the spiritual person doing teachy stuff, shows up in whatever, it shows up in the form, like you do it in the form that works for you. And I don't care. I have no give a shit. I mean, I love that his version is a Methodist pastor. We need Methodist pastors that are groovy. Right.
We need, yeah, exactly. Because they got a church already, so they might as well be like preaching the good stuff. Not that I get to be the judge of what the good stuff is, but I kind of do also.
Well, I think we all do. You do get to be the judge of what the good stuff is, as long as we're not like, if we don't close our hearts to the possibility of the people who are living in a hierarchical power over, we're right, you're wrong dynamic. If you're coming from that place, and we over here coming from inclusion can stay open to the possibility and welcoming of those people, we get to say like, this is the groovy love stuff.
Right.
Is it the right stuff, wrong stuff? No.
Well, what's the word? The difference between judgment and
awareness?
Well, awareness.
Discernment.
Discernment. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Been struggling with that. Not struggling is super the wrong word. I've been aware of that a lot more lately, just because of our conversations and conversation with Denise and conversation with a lot of people. Like we've been talking about judgment a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm really tuned up around the idea of like, oh, I'm in judgment about that. And sometimes just being like, yeah, I'm in judgment around that and just letting it go.
Yeah.
And sometimes being like, okay, that's judgment, or is it? Am I in judgment, or am I actually just being discerning? Am I being, let me think about that. Oh no, that still doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very deep teaching, I think, to take in the idea of, like, this was an access consciousness idea. And even though they say a lot of stuff I don't agree with at this point, they said a lot of great stuff too. Said that judgment always creates separation. And I guess I would say about judgment versus discernment, it's about, okay, this is what they said. They would say, I had to gather that thought. We often think that in order to choose or not choose a thing, we have to judge it first as a good, bad, right, wrong.
Okay.
In other words, if I drink this, if I go, I'm going to have green tea, we think in our human minds that we have to go, green tea is better than coffee. So I'll drink green tea because it's better than coffee. It's good and coffee is bad. Mm-hmm. Whereas they were teaching the idea of like, choose green tea, just choose it without judging coffee as bad.
Right. Well, that brings up, yes, that there has to always be a counterpoint to something. That's the framing that we often use, as opposed to just, how about that's just good? or that's just is, like that's what I want, as opposed to and in contrast to this other thing.
Right,
So
exactly. Because
I'm a
polarity,
Democrat because I'm not a Republican.
yeah,
or
and that speaks to polarity, opposites, as if there is a separateness. When in the realm of the heart, nothing is separate. Like people are people, hearts are hearts, every oneness is. So if I prefer, their language, and I did like this distinction, they would say, your preference is green tea because your body is responding to it more positively currently than it is responding to coffee. So my preference is tea, but it's a preference. It's not a judged correctness.
Got it.
I prefer it right now in this case because the consequences are preferable.
So I prefer open-hearted, loving approaches to things.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm in judgment of being an asshole?
I think it's how you hold it inside of yourself, because you can easily say the right words and go, I prefer open-hearted people because those other guys are dicks. And then you're in judgment.
Yeah.
Because the subtext reads, the subtext is always there.
In contrast to, yeah.
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 Polarity, opposites, etc. I want to say one more thing before we bring our friend on, and this is fully tangential, but related. And I want us to explore this idea because I think it's sort of a challenging. I'm wondering about it in present time, which is the other day, maybe 2 days ago, I had new headshots taken, both for my business and for like, if I'm going to be in the state where television is, I'm probably going to go try to get them to pay me money. Which I think I will do that. So got some pictures taken and my hair was done for it. We did like curly, wavy, beachy, whatever. And I always find that if I curl my hair, the next day after the actual day of curling is the ideal hair day because it's softened a little and it's like you've grown into it and you feel it's just more organic.
Right.
And not so like the curls are tight when you first put them in and then the next day they're loose and free. Okay. So the day of the shoot for the second half of the day and that whole following day, I felt so much more beautiful than I normally feel because the hair looked nice and I had this professional makeup on that looked like natural and organic, but it wasn't, And I was particularly thinking about this the day after, about every time I would catch myself in the mirror, I would think, God, I am not having a negative reaction. I'm in the mirror going, look at that nice looking lady. She's nice looking. Look at that, she's a pretty lady. It changed my entire day, my whole mood, my whole day. And it brings me to this idea of like the difference between, we've talked on here a bunch about, I think, about self-esteem versus ego.
Yeah. And
it was like almost motivating enough for me to do my hair every day. I'm so not a curl my hair in the morning lady, but again, that's an identification point I've attached myself to. I'm not the kind of lady who takes time in the morning to curl my hair because I'm not all about my looks, right? That's an ego-based identification point. And then I realized like, okay, well, that's ego. So I've also been doing some Byron Katie work. And for the listener, if you're not familiar with Byron Katie, I highly encourage people to go to thework.com. Man, did she nab the best healer website name 20 years ago or whenever she first.
The work.
Yeah,
right.
She got it. Anyway, Byron Katie has this great 4-question series of questions that you can ask yourself when you're struggling with any belief and any limitation in anything. And I will say what they are now. I'm trying to turn my telephone off. Ever since we started talking, I've turned it off 16 times and it's never off. I don't know what's happening. It's off now. So her thing is, so you say something like, I'm not the kind of lady who curls my hair in the morning. And then the 4 questions would be, is that true? And as soon as I ask myself, is it actually true that I'm not the kind of lady who curls her hair? I have to say, no, I'm not the kind of lady.
Right.
The second question, and she says, you can skip the second question if you get to no on the first question. But let's say I was to say, yes, I am. That is true. I am not the kind of lady who curls her hair in the morning. Yes, it's true. Then you go to question number 2. Can you absolutely know that it's true? And I have not yet found one for a limiting belief where I can absolutely know that limiting belief is true.
Yeah, I'm going to fucks with that one a little bit. This is good.
The third one, it gets even better. How do you react when you believe that belief is true or when you believe that thought is true? So for me, I'll take myself as the example. I'm not the kind of lady who curls my hair in the morning. How do I react inside when I believe that that is true? Well, then I have no options around hair curling. I can't look cute. That day of feeling light and pretty all day is just in the past, and I don't get to have that anymore. So the words I would describe are like contracted, sad, bummed out, limited. Also, like there's just a contraction around it.
Yeah.
And then the final question is, who and what would you be without that thought? If that thought didn't exist, who and what could you be? And when I feel into the energy of it, if I didn't believe, like if the thought didn't exist, I'm not the kind of lady who curls my hair in the morning, didn't exist, who or what would I be? I'd be a lady who had the choice. I'd be someone with infinite possibility who could curl her hair because it felt fun.
Yeah.
And when I feel the energy of that has expansion on it. Oh my God, I am loving this work. And I had forgotten about it. It's been a long time since I looked at it. And I'm remembering what it's reminding me of is that any belief or idea that has the energy of expansion or possibility on it, that is coming from the pure realm of true consciousness. Consciousness, the realm of God, you could say.
Right.
Anything that has a contracted energy, we created that in our minds, period. The culture created it, some human created it, and we bought into it.
Right.
There are no contracty ideas that belong to consciousness or to the divine. So then I woke up this morning and I was just like, well, if I choose to believe I have the option to curl my hair, how does that land? And it's like, oh, that feels fun. I think I'm going to curl my hair. And then it's like, I looked at the next belief that comes up after it, which is something like another thing will come up that goes like, well, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to curl my hair in the morning. I'm doing my spiritual shit in the morning. I'm doing walk the dog in the morning. I'm doing a lot of shit already in the morning. I don't have another fucking 12 minutes to curl my hair.
Right.
Is that true? No. Can I absolutely know it's true? No. How do I react when I believe that I don't have time? Disappointed. I feel in control, like in a rigid way.
Is there a now version of that where it's like, okay, right now I do not have time to do it?
But is that true?
It could be. You literally are like, no, because I have to get in the car and drive to an appointment.
But that's missing the point. I
agree. Well, and even that, I am choosing that appointment.
Yeah.
Over curling my hair.
But also.
But it doesn't mean I don't have time. I could do the thing instead.
Or but see okay, it's deep. This is going to get deep. You have to kind of stay with it a little bit. So you would have to break down everything you just said into each thought you just said, because you said like 4 different thoughts you have to take the 4 questions to each of those. So what I would say is, if you go, well, I can't because I have to get in the car to go to blah, blah, blah. I would go, is that true?
Right.
And then what starts to happen the more you do it is you realize like, actually, I could take 5 minutes and be 5 minutes late, or I could take 5 minutes and I'm assuming I'll be 5 minutes late. I don't actually know that.
Right.
You don't know.
Yeah.
So there's often a way.
The limiting belief thing is huge. Like I can see applying this to just fucking every moment in your goddamn day, but also in the bigger questions about like career and life. And
well, that's the whole point, is that what's underneath anything and everything you're believing. And if it isn't the light of consciousness, if it isn't true in the realm of truth, if it isn't light and true, it's only going to lead to more suffering and the not solving of the issue you think you're solving by doing the thing you're doing. In other words, so many people choose their career path based on once I have X, I'll be Y. When it's like, wait a minute, what would it take to feel Y and have Y now just by existing? And then could you choose X because it's a fun project to choose?
Yeah.
As opposed to, I'm not blank until I have blank. How do you become blank, the first blank, without having blank? Because it is a lie to say you can't have this until you have that. That's actually not true.
Right.
It's deep shit. And once you get into it, you start to go, like, I'll give you one more example, and then I'm sure we have to let our friend in. But, I've been looking at this huge decision in my life, this move to the East Coast, this potential, like maybe I'm moving to the fucking East Coast, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because in my channel and my guides, they're like, yeah, you're moving to the East Coast. And I've been like, you need to give me some time because emotionally I'm not caught up.
Mhm.
The biggest one I got the other day, I took it through the Byron Katie process and I got to, it was something like, I'm not sure if I can remember the first belief, but what I got to at the end was, who would I be without that belief? And the answer was, or the awareness was, I would be someone with choice. Let me actually, you know what? I want to give me 2 seconds to pull it up because I think this is worth people hearing, and he can just wait a minute. It's
That's
okay.
right. I'm going to send him a little message in the waiting room real quick. Just super easy to do. I mean, this is such a huge, this is a whole other episode that I'm definitely excited. I think you need to contact Byron Katie and get Byron Katie on our show.
God, that's a great idea. No, that's 100%. I'm going to do that. Okay. Okay. I have them all here. Let me just find one that is the point I'm making. Well, here. Okay. This is a really good one. Okay. So one of my resistance points to moving to the East Coast is I have this idea that's like, I'm really happy in Durango. I actually really like it in Durango. And I actually like it more than a lot of things I like about being in New York. Like the experience of existing for my energy field in Durango is more pleasant than the experience of existing in upstate New York. Okay. So I wrote, I believe I would be happy in Durango, right? And that's a reason not to go to New York in my head.
Right.
So I go, is that true that I would be happy there? Yes. I actually know that. Can I absolutely know it?
Happy here in Durango.
In Durango. Can I absolutely know it's true? No. No, I can't. Then the next question, how do I react when I believe that thought that I would be happy in Durango? Happily, peacefully, relaxedly, excitedly, and a little sad and confused about New York. Okay.
That's a very tinily contractive energy with a lot of expansive energy.
That's right. Who would I be without that thought that I would be happy in Durango? And what I got was free to choose.
Oh, so that's a weird one because your joy is limiting you.
Now, that's the point I wanted to make with this example when I was like, oh, we should do this example. It's because positive and negative are both judgments.
Shit.
They're two opposite sides of a polarity, which is why people get in trouble sometimes when they say, follow your joy, follow your bliss, follow your passion. And it's like, yeah. And you have to be willing to hold that in the light of, if you're so married to only the joy and only the bliss and only the passion, you're going to be resisting a lot of shit all day in life.
Right. And you're going to be chasing, in a sense, the drug of joy.
That's right. And you can never be content and peaceful and free while you're chasing anything. So that was really a good one for me to go like, right, I do feel happy and positive in Durango. Now, the next question I would give to myself if I were coaching myself would be, what creates the greatest good for the greatest number? What's in the highest good for all concerned?
God damn it. You got to do your goddamn service work for the fucking universe and move to fucking New York because that's what the universe wants. I say that mockingly. You know I love it.
No, I mean, it's deep though, right? Because it's like, when I look at that question, so what creates the greatest good for the greatest number? And I start to project into the future of me in Durango, and then I project into the future of me in New York, and I get like 8 ideas for New York that take everything big. And when I projected to the future with Durango, I go, oh, that would be nice. And that's nice for me.
Yeah, that's different.
So food for thought for our guests. Why don't we bring for our listeners?
Let's bring him in.
All right, I'm excited.
Perfect bridge. I got it. Admitting. Hopefully he's still there. Well, there's his headshot. I don't know if he can hear us, but I let him in.
Hello?
Are you there, Aeron?
Hello, party people.
Hello.
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 Hey.
Hey. Oh, are you also in Durango currently?
No, this is a photo.
I know. Where is it though?
It's southern Colorado. It's where I spent the last 6 months. I spent from.
Okay, Katie, Aeron, Katie.
Hey, Katie. I know you already. You're my friend.
Okay.
We're friends on Facebook and shit. And I know a lot of people, so your reputation precedes you.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
It's
isn't that great?
lovely to meet you. Do you know that I live in the southwest corner of Colorado right now?
We're in the southwest corner.
I'm in Mancos, which is just outside Durango.
Mancos. Oh, well, I was in Alamosa,
Okay.
which is up in the San Luis Valley.
Yes.
So it's a little more central.
Okay. That makes sense.
It's a little bit, it's north of Santa Fe,
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Yeah, like if you go straight up from Santa Fe, it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours north, an hour and a half north of Santa Fe.
Very, very cool. I am very excited to have you on the old podcast for many reasons. One, it's lovely to meet you just as a human mammal. Number two, your interest in and your following of the Michael conversations. I'm very excited to talk to you about that. And three, there is no three. So how did you get into the Michael
Couldn't there
stuff?
be a three?
There could, but I threw it away.
Let's make one up. You know? Okay, go ahead. Go for it. It's your show.
No, but three was fun because I like that Cassidy knows you from like karaoke, but you're also like into theater and friends with Christian and Melissa,
yeah.
who I adore. But then you're also into the Michael thing, and I'm like, this clown is right up my alley.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely a clown. Definitely.
So can I ask you why that particular topic? Like, how did you get everybody has their spiritual path and how they get to the things they get to. Like, what took you to the Michael deal? And can you tell us, for the listeners, a little bit more about who is Michael? What does Michael offer? What is the path?
Well, it kind of started, I met this, I don't even remember how I met him, but I met this guy who was a Michael reader. He basically would channel Michael and do all this stuff. And he told me about the book, and he was and I started reading it, and kind of my whole life I got into spiritually. I've had kind of a strange life in that when I was in high school, junior, senior, for those 2 years, I was inundated by people trying to get me to join their religion. So I had like born agains, I had Lutherans, I had Pentecostals, I had, and I was kind of brought up a little Catholic, like only about that big.
Small C.
The small Catholic, yeah, with a small C. But I was just really amazed that all these people were saying that they had the answer. And they kept saying, this is the answer. No, this is the answer. No, this is the answer. And I started really kind of delving into reading about all the different religions and realizing they're all saying the same fucking thing. I mean, it's exactly the same fucking thing, just with little different parables. And there's so much misinformation and not misinformation, but misunderstanding, in my opinion, of what some of these parables mean. So anyway, fast forward quite a few years. I moved out here to San Francisco, and I was here for probably 5 or 6 years. And I just always had kind of a very solid spiritual base.
Okay.
And then I got into, I found somebody who was interested in Nichiren Shoshu Buddhism.
Okay.
So I started looking into that.
Yeah.
That really clicked with me too, because it was an active thing that I could do spiritually. It worked. It was fucking amazing. And then I met this guy, and I started reading about it, and it just totally made sense. And basically, just to kind of go through what it is it's basically saying that the universe is made up of energy and entities, and we're all trying to relearn ourselves. So the universe is trying to relearn itself because it's bored. Because, being in a universe and being a void, it's kind of dull. There's really not much going on. So what better way if I can take little cells in my body and manifest them into something solid and see what that's like and relearn what it's like to be in a physical form. And to do that, let's make it a little fun. So it's kind of like, it makes it kind of a game. And as I was reading it, and the thing is when I got my reading, there's the sage, which is supposed to be the actor, and I thought, well, I'm definitely a sage, of course.
Wait, let me just to clarify.
Yeah.
From what I understand, there are like 9 or whatever number of types or or
7.
manifestations.
Right.
7.
7 types, yeah.
And
Why
sage
don't-
is
can
one
you,
of them.
Can you tell
Right.
us
Can you
what the
just list
types
them?
are?
Yeah, so let's see. There's the king, there's the priest, there's a servant, there's an artisan, there's a sage, and there's 2 more. And I can't remember what they are. I have
Well,
the book hanging.
there's also a whole other set of distinctions.
Right, which are the overleads. And basically what it is you have one, each entity has one kind of thing that they are for that particular cycle of lifetime. So it's basically, we just keep reincarnating, and each time we reincarnate with a different set of circumstances or modes or attitudes.
Wasn't there one that was like the child, the infant, the...
Well, that's the other thing, is that in terms of soul life,
Yeah.
you're either an infant, a child, an adult,
Mature or a sage.
And so you go through all these different so let's see here. Young, infant, baby, young, mature, and old, and then you go into the transcendental stage, dump all your stuff in the Akashic records, and then come back for another one. And it just seemed to me, it made sense to me, because I know that I've been here before. And I know that I've met people before that I've never met, and there was no way I would have known.
Yeah.
And I know that I've experienced things now karmically that came from past lives, and I know that I'm creating karma. And I think that's one of the important things for me in terms of the teaching, is that the karma is such a huge deal. And it's one of the things that, when looking at the Christian religion, where they talk about, there seemed to be like, turn the other cheek is one of the parables, but an eye for an eye is another one. So that didn't really make sense to me. But if you look at it, I don't see the eye for an eye being a saying, if you take my eye, I'm going to take yours. It's more, if I take your eye, you somewhere down the line. Right.
It's karma.
So it's probably a good idea to turn your cheek.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Oh, that's super interesting. I've never thought of that combination.
Well, that's a very common one that people use when they want to be like, God isn't real, because why do the Christians say eye for an eye? And I go, because you don't understand what eye for an eye means. You've decided it means punish people and hurt them. If they fuck with you, you fuck with them. And that's just, you haven't read the parable.
Right.
It's the opposite. If you fuck with somebody, you're going to get fucked with.
It's all going to come back. It's all going to come back. Yeah.
I hate to do this because I'm in love with this flow. I suddenly desperately have to pee. Can you wait?
You should. I
2
fortunately
seconds?
was able to get my coffee made. So
I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. You guys chit chat. Enjoy the hell out of it.
Chit chat, but we won't say anything interesting. Hold on. I'm just going to say something out loud. Desmond, you can cut all this out. All right, go ahead. He's not listening right now, so he'll listen later.
Okay. All right. We're back.
Well, Katie's back there.
Okay. So eye for an eye
Yeah.
means not the thing people take it to mean. What were you pulling up in your book? Were you going to pull something up, or did we get to that?
I was just, it's been so long that I couldn't remember what it is. So it's basically, it's a server, priest, artisan, sage, scholar, warrior, and king.
And these are archetypes, or?
These are the essence roles. So basically each one of us has a role. Yeah. And we can, that's the one thing that remains constant.
Huh.
And so it's basically
throughout every
cycle.
Like, next lifetime, I'm still going to, if I'm a sage now, I'm going to be a sage next time too.
That's right. But the good thing is that we're all part of one big collective, one big cadre of people, of essence, of, whatever, energy. And so we all experience that as the same cadre. So what I experience in mine is what you're also going to have that information, because it's all in the same place, because we're all the same thing. We're all God. We're all.
Yeah, exactly. What role are you playing?
Well, that was the thing, is I thought, oh, I'm a sage. I got to be a sage because I'm an actor and I'm an artisan, and which is a little bit more. It's less about the expression and more of the creation.
It's less about what?
The expression. So they're both expression roles, the artisan and the sage. And then there's inspiration roles, and that's the server and the priest. And then there's action roles, which are the warrior and the king. And then this assimilation is the scholar, and that's the person who kind of just takes all the pieces and puts it together. So it's like you could basically, it's kind of like the Enneagram, then that you take the test and it kind of gives you all this information and you start looking at it. But the way I found out about it was through this reading, and it just made so much sense. And the other thing is that it really made me feel like it was a way to look at the world where you actually do not just feel a responsibility to take responsibility for things.
Right.
But it just makes sense that you would want to
play your role,
do your thing, get what you get, learn what you learn, do what you can do for other people, do what you can for the planet, do what you can for whatever, and then see what happens.
That's really great. I turned my camera off because I'm losing every other word that you say. And sometimes if I turn the camera off, it makes the Wi-Fi work better. And now I can hear every word you're saying.
Now every word is coming.
You know, what I really like about what you just said, Aeron, and I really appreciate it, is the kind of the quality with which you said that last idea, which is like, you know, you learn what you learn, you do what you can, you help the people, and you see what happens. It's a very like, you know, it's not that big a fucking deal. I can get really caught in, I think, the perfectionism of trying to like get it all correct, like do it all perfectly, you know? And like over and over again, I get knocked down on that one. Like the universe is constantly reminding me to have more fun and to like calm the hell down and like just enjoy the day and have your tea and walk the dog and, you know, all that stuff. But that's not, that's not the easiest thing. So I appreciate that perspective.
There's something very freeing about also, like, I know in some of the, like, let's just say like in the volunteer work I've been doing with like social justice work, I feel like, oh, look what they're doing and the way they're doing it. I should be doing that version of it. Like I should be, I should be organizing marches and going on them, as opposed to being able to find, if you can, something that is in flow with your role. So it's like, oh, I'm not a, in the same way that like human design helps you. It's like, oh, I'm not a that. Right. That's just not what I am. I can still do the service. I can still be engaged with all the things, but it's not going to look like that.
Right. Yeah. I think that all comes back to like what actually feels good in the body for you. Does it feel good to do that kind of service work? Great. Does it feel good to do the social justice stuff? Or are you just trying to prove something to somebody who's not watching and doesn't care anyway? Or
even feeling like you want to do something else that just, I mean, that's, so I've been in the entertainment biz for, this is 40 years now.
Yeah.
And I've been teaching acting, and I've been an actor, and I've been a director, and I've been a producer, and I've been a set designer, and I've been a light designer, and I've been a sound designer, and I'm a filmmaker. And, I used to beat myself up for, why can't I focus like my friends who are making it, who are now, professional actors, and they're working all the time and everybody knows them, and nobody, very few people know me because I just I couldn't, that wasn't my thing. I couldn't just go, that's what I'm going to focus on. I would focus on that one thing. And while I was doing that, I'd be going, yeah, but I kind of want to do that over there. And then I want to do that over there.
Yeah.
And the thing is after all these years, I got a shitload of experience. And I've had a really great time, and I'm alive, and I've got a nice apartment, and I've got a car, and I've got food, and, the things
your
just kind of take
met.
their own course. And, I'm that's one of the things I'm really excited about being here is because I'm making another huge life change. And I've made several of them, but I'm just about to make another one. And
what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, just kind of a little history. I moved out here in 81 to be an actor. I moved out with a woman that I met in college, and started taking classes. And then about 4 years into it, the woman who ran the school asked me if I would teach. So I started teaching. I started helping people produce plays, started getting a few little parts and things like that. And then in 92, I moved down to Los Angeles for 4 years. And I was engaged at the point with the time that I moved down, and 6 months later we got married, and she remained up here in the Bay Area. And I was down in Los Angeles, and we did that for 4 years. So we had a 4-year long distance marriage. And then she got into a car accident, and she was okay, but I needed to come back. I needed to, and it took me a long time. And it was the beginning of the spiral downward in our marriage, because I didn't handle it, because I was young and I was down there for 4 years, and I had a mission and I wanted to do this. And so I was a shitty husband. I was not a good husband. It took me a while to get to finally go, I can't stay down here. I got to go up there and take care of her. So I moved up here, and I've been here ever since. I want to move back down to Los Angeles. And I've been thinking about it for a couple of years now. And
how cool.
And then, Kristen and Melissa said, we're moving down there. And I was like, well, no better time.
Oh, those guys are moving south?
They're already down there. They just moved down there last month or the month before.
Good for them. That's great. Question. What happened with that marriage?
It's over. We were married for 18 years. We got a great daughter, 24-year-old daughter. She's in New Zealand now. She's in her last year of college. And she's happy as hell and wants to stay there. And I don't blame her. And the thing is that if she lived in the Bay Area, I would probably see her more. But if she lived anywhere else in the United States, it would be no different, because with FaceTime, I could talk to her every day and see her, which is a huge thing,
That's fantastic. So you're looking forward to getting in the records and asking about that. Is that right?
Yeah, I just am really interested in finding out, because it feels right. It feels normal. It feels time. You go through life, and at certain points, I can't tell you the number of times I've gotten to a point in my life where I've gone, I just really what have I done? I haven't done anything. And then, something comes up where you have to gather all of the stuff that you've done, and you gather it together, and you go, Jesus Christ.
I've done a lot.
I've done a shitload of stuff here.
I'm interested to hear also how much of this lines up with your multiple name changes that you have gone through in your life, which I find that's me. When you brought up that idea earlier, I was like, ooh, I'm curious about that. If you decide to ask that, that's great. But if you don't, that's on you. But I just think that is interesting, because I've been thinking about this idea of identity, and like, how do we tie our identity to our work, or to our behavior, or to our name, or is identity just an ego concept that we need to release anyway? Yeah. Like what?
Well, I think
I have no conclusion to that sentence.
I have conclusions.
Yeah. I bet you do. What conclusions do you have?
Well, I have all the answers. So.
Okay. Well, later on you can dig into them and let me know. Because, for me, I've been through more therapy than anybody I know. I mean, when I was 38, I was diagnosed ADD, and then I had a complete break right toward the end of my marriage, and I was diagnosed bipolar. So I've been on bipolar medication for 15 years. And I went through analysis. So I went to analysis 5 days a week for 2.5 years. And I started in therapy when I was in 4th grade. So my parents put me in therapy when I was in 4th grade, because I was fucked up. And the thing is that what that stemmed from is that when I was 6, I was molested by a brother and sister separately. They were two completely different experiences. Like one was the most humiliating, awful, disgusting, degrading thing. And then the other one was like one of the most wonderful experiences I've ever had in my life. And it really fucked me up. And the thing is that I started therapy in the 4th grade, and I never told anyone that happened until I was in my 20s. So that kind of tells you about, you get to be a good liar and a good story maker.
really quickly.
Yeah.
I also was sexually abused at a very young age.
Mhm.
Didn't remember it until 33 because I just didn't remember it. And then I read all these books because I had all these symptoms of, and by the way, I was like 15 years in therapy, 25 years in energy healing, hours of healing a day, forever and ever. So I'm right there with you. The sexual abuse thing, like when that nut cracked, as it were, like that's been the doorway to all the greatest transformational healing in my life, was going right into that wound. And in fact, that wound has been the doorway to all the healing, and all the integration and the wholeness, but B, the channel and the light and all the spiritual gifts too. So anyway, I identify with you. I hear you. Very relate to the story. Not surprised.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So anyway, the other thing is I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters. They're both at least 9 years older than me, and they all go up from there. So I was kind of like I was definitely a unplanned surprise, or pleasant surprise, as my mother used to say. But I always wanted to be older. I always looked up to them. I always kind of make fun of it and say it was kind of like having 3 mothers and 3 fathers, because they all knew better, because they'd all been through it, and they were, what's wrong with you and all that. But they pulled my name out of a hat when my parents got them all around. When my mom was pregnant, said, okay, we don't know if it's a boy or a girl, put a boy's name in here and a middle name in here. And they picked my name out of a hat. And I don't know if it was that. I don't know if it was, I don't care. It doesn't really matter. The point is I've never liked my birth name. Never liked it.
And what is it?
It's Brian Donald Scott.
That's the full
name, Brian Donald Scott.
And where does Aeron Macintyre come from?
Well, that's a long story, but that came from the Kabbalah, actually. There's a Kabbalah group up in Canada, and they basically have this whole thing where they do this reading, and you give them all of your information, when you were born, what your name is, all the spellings and everything like that. And then they kind of do an analysis and send it back and say, this is what we see with the energy that you have with the current name. And if you want, you can change it anytime, because it's your name. You can do whatever you want. And I read it, and it was another one of those things. I mean, I've had so many of those with so many. That's why, people say, oh, astrology, that's bullshit, or this is bullshit, or that's bullshit. It's like, there's no bullshit, man. There is literally no fucking bullshit. There is energy that is out there, that is there for us to use as tools to move through this lifetime. And if we negate them because they sound a little too weird for us, then we're missing the boat.
That's just the human ego going like, I wasn't programmed to believe that astrology thing, therefore it's not real. Right. Or my rational mind can't logically whatever. And then, so that's not real. Right. Then we learn how to perceive energy and receive awareness being very different from knowing with your mind, or I should say knowledge. Right. I would associate knowing and awareness together, but knowledge and reason and logic are of the mind. Mm-hmm. But when we can expand past the mind and perceive through the being and the receptivity of the energetic field of the self, then none of those judgments are real anymore.
Right. So anyway, and who's to say? Who's to say? There's, everybody on the planet has some level of faith. They have some level of, I can't really point at it, don't really know that it's there, but I believe that it's there.
Right.
And, it just depends on what level you want to go to. But growing up, I've always never felt like it fit, never felt like my name fit, and especially the Donald. And I wouldn't even tell people what my middle name was. And so when I was in high school, when I was graduating, they came to me and they said, we have to put your full name on the diploma. What's your middle name? And I said, just put Brian Scott. No, we have to put your full name. And so right on the spot, I just went Deegan, Degan, Brian Deegan Scott. They put it on my.
It's a way better name.
I thought so too. And they put it on my diploma, and then that became my professional name for years. So most of the stuff that I've done, if you look on IMDb, it'll say Aeron Macintyre, and then all of these shows are as Brian Deegan Scott. But it got to a point later, after raising a kid, after going through all of this stuff, and I just really still felt like I have carried on, or I have sent out an energy of invisibility. And I think a lot of that invisibility has to do with the lies, with with being molested when you're a kid and never wanting anyone to know that and lying about it, you're constantly trying to stay under the radar, even if not consciously, subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually been pretty amazing how things have changed since I decided to change my name. And the thing is that it's really, really difficult to do legally. So I haven't even done that legally. So half of the people I know me as Aeron, and half the people know me as Brian. The people who are my friends and that I feel a kinship with all know me as Aeron. All of my old friends have become kind of estranged in a way. They were part of my old life.
Right.
But it's just been really interesting.
Are you looking at changing it again, or are you good with Aeron?
No, I'm good. I'm happy with this. I feel really,
gotcha.
I feel really comfortable with it. And I feel like I can be that, the
Macintyre also came from the Kabbalists.
Yeah. And they basically just said, okay, with your birth time and your birth date and your birthplace, these are some names. And they give you a shitload of names, and they're all really weird.
Really?
They're all really weird. So it took me a while to find one that was like, okay, this is not, Badabwe. I'm not going to be Badabwe for the rest of my life.
And do you actually have like Scottish ancestry or Irish ancestry?
Yeah, actually, my dad is Scott. My birth name is Scott.
Oh, right. Name is Scott.
It's pretty Scottish. And we've got our own tartan and our own, ancient tartan and blah, 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 and all this stuff. So yeah, there's definitely that. And the thing is you can't find another Aeron Macintyre spelled especially that way. Like, look, try to find an Aeron with an Aeron.
Well, I've only ever seen that spelling with regard to angels and archangels. That's how they spell it.
It's like claiming that spot.
Claiming that, man.
Okay, and so Cassidy had said when he was talking about you coming on the podcast that maybe one of the questions you had was something along the lines of, why have I felt the need to change my name so much? But it sounds to me like you are quite clear on that topic. Right?
Yeah, I'm quite clear. Yeah, I wrote that text to you very cryptically.
It was very cryptic
because it's saying I've changed my name. I've changed my name 3 times. What's going on?
Okay, so I might have misinterpreted, but
that sounds like we have, and that was kind of purposeful on my part, because I was hoping that you would. I was hoping that you would kind of go, okay, so what does that exactly mean, and then make your own interpretation. So I'm good with it. Yeah.
Cool. And so the questions you're looking to get at are more about moving to LA and what that brings or doesn't bring, or what's in the way or not in the way.
Yeah. What's it? I'm kind of already kind of going down a path.
Mm-hmm.
I've already started making a lot of different, putting together a demo reel, getting my website going. But, I'm going to classes. I started dropping in, doing audits of different classes down there and meeting people. And I just kind of want to see if there's any, because I always look at these things, the records, as you have a direction, and it feels to me almost like there's the records can give you a little spice for the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm going in this direction. I kind of know where I'm going, but maybe if you did this one little thing, that would really feed into what you're already doing, or whatever. And I'm not, and I could easily hear, oh, you don't want to know.
Well, so what I'll offer is that for my personal connection to the records will also often bring, we never know what it'll bring. Let's find out what it's going to bring, but it often will bring information about what's going on inside of you that we can bring some healing to make the transition work better, or what are your internal blocks to succeeding down there, and or what else do you need to know? Sometimes it's like big, amazing stuff you need to know, and sometimes it's little tiny tweaks, like you say, like pepper, salt, flavor.
Right.
We don't know. We have to get in there to kind of find out.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm up for it.
I'm already excited for you. It sounds like it sounds like you've known for a long time that you didn't get to complete what you wanted to complete down there. And B, you have nothing holding you back anymore. There's no reason not to be there now.
Right. Well, no, the thing is when I was down there, I was there for 4 years. They say it takes, usually about 3 years to start getting things. And within the first year and a half, I already started getting things. Things were happening.
Yeah.
It really was. I felt like I was kind of torn out of there because I was finally hitting this place where it seemed like I had a trajectory and things just didn't work out that way.
Well, I'm excited, frankly, Aeron, because you're a few years older than me. And if you're going down there to kind of restart and see what happens, I'm going to be stalking you.
Okay.
And checking out your path to see if I can, ride your coattails at all.
Hey,
I'm going to let you do the work.
If I get a place big enough for a couch, you can even sleep on it.
Great. Yeah.
And, I think of that with Rami too. Rami went to New York at 40 something.
Yeah.
And there's no, that's another place to take the Byron Katie work. It's like, why couldn't you go at whatever age? And the answer is
that's all my limiting beliefs around being an old white guy. Like 100% of it.
Yeah.
It's all around being an old white guy.
Well, and that's the thing is that you watch television, you watch movies, there's only so many old white guys. And pretty much most of the old white guys you see are the same ones you see over and over again. So maybe they want to see a new one.
And they started as young white guys, most of them.
Exactly.
But doesn't mean, there's plenty of work. There's always plenty of work. That's not the issue.
Also, at the same time, it's hilarious to hear that as a non-old white guy.
Right.
Because you have to get that, it's so extra crazy. All of our limiting beliefs are lies, and they're all crazy for all of us. But for the white guy, are you serious right now?
Right. Yeah. No.
There's
Of course.
the most roles in the world for old white guys.
I know. Well, and the thing that's funny is when you look at in the backstage and you look at the breakdowns and stuff, and it's like we're looking for anyone but white guys, and the reason is because there's too many fucking white guys.
Well, also the world is waking up and we're in the middle of a revolution around race consciousness. Yeah. So now is not the white guy's moment.
That's right.
But you've got to remember, and I know you know this, but I'll just say it for the folks listening, that there's one thing I know about consciousness. I know a bunch of things, but here's my favorite one. Okay, I'll give a specific example about this that in the form of housing. I have this thing with housing where I have miraculous housing stories from when I had $0 to now when I have the most money I've ever had. And every time I have moved into a place, it's been awesomer and awesomer than the last place. And the place that I've moved into makes no sense. It is not market value. It does not exist. No one would believe you could have it. Certainly not at the price I got it for. And anyone you would talk to would be like, oh, well, you can't live in that part because fill in the blank. Oh, well, you can't do that because with how much you make, there's nothing like that over there. I don't know what it is about my willingness with housing to just be like, fuck everyone's beliefs. I don't care if you're a real estate agent. I don't care what you know about the market. I have God, and God says to me, you have to believe in infinite possibility.
Right.
Everything else is a negative Nancy lie that somebody programmed into your head because they need to feel powerful.
Mm.
So who do I bow my soul to? Do I bow my soul to infinite possibility or to some guy who needs to feel powerful?
Right.
Or to Backstage or Craigslist as the only source of what's actually the possibilities. So Backstage doesn't show us the possibilities for our thing that we know there are a million of. Just turn on the TV. Millions, got it. But it's not going to show up in Backstage or in Craigslist for your real estate listing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I similarly have housing things that just it's been, and oftentimes it's been at a point where it's like, oh fuck. I mean, one time I moved out of a place and I was literally driving away from the storage unit where I put all my shit. I had nowhere to live. And it was when I was in LA, and I drove away and I just went, oh, well, something will come up. And all of a sudden my phone rang, and it was this guy who I'd met. He was a casting director for Deep Space Nine or something like that I'd met at a casting session, and we, became kind of friends. And he says, I got to go up for 2 months up to Canada. I'm going to be Nancy Sinatra's personal assistant. Do you want to house sit? It's like, yeah, I think I could probably do that for you, you know? So it was things like that. It was also times sleeping in the back of my truck. But every time no matter where I was, I always felt like I was supposed to be there, not as a punishment, but as a, this is where I am. This is where I am. And therefore, this is what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, I think I told a little bit that story, Cassidy, that kind of became my mantra, is that it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It just is.
That's where we started today's conversation. Are you familiar with Byron Katie's work, Aeron?
No.
So we were talking before you came on about this work she calls The Work. And it's a series of 4 questions that you ask of any negative belief you're having, or any belief of any kind, that gets you to essentially neutrality and infinite choice, which, you know, is what all the systems are trying to get us all to, is like, well, what is occurring? And from what is, now what could you create, you know? And her questions are, it's just 4 questions, and they get you back to like, oh, I'm either in a positive judgment or a negative judgment. And I was sort of helping Cass know or remember that positive judgments, brings me joy. This is the right, I'm happy, good. Yes, those are positive judgments.
Right.
And then negative judgments are negative judgments, but they're both 2 sides of the same polarity pole.
Right.
Whereas the presence is just, I'm just here.
Right.
And so if you're in your truck and sleeping in your truck, pretty ideal to have the perspective of, this is where I am.
That's where I'm supposed to be. Well, and that again comes, I think a lot of that comes from that Michael teaching, because that's the other thing about it, is that it makes it very clear that that our essence, our entities, who we are as essence, has no judgment of good or bad. Mm-hmm. There is no judgment of good or bad. It just is. And so if there were no judgment, if you could just shed this body at the end of your life and go up and reflect on a life where you were brought up in a horribly abusive situation, you ended up, you know, on the streets when you were 13, and you had to sleep in doorways, and all of these horrible things happen, and you got addicted to heroin, and you know, I mean, all of these horrible, horrible things, and you die tragically at 35 in a doorway someplace. That's an adventure. In my judgment, it wouldn't be what I would prefer, but that's because I'm me. I'm in my body. But that's a story.
That's right. It's a narrative based on a positive judgment. 100%. Right. Let's get in your records.
Okay.
I have to pee now too, but you can start without me. I'm just letting you know that.
Okay. Pee well.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start by closing our eyes and just consciously coming in contact with the low belly, taking some deep breaths into that low pelvic girdle. Really allowing ourselves to just surrender into the seat of the self. Down at that Unahapili, the Dantian, the low belly, center of gravity. Releasing any places we might be holding the stomach in to look good or be strong. Just opening ourselves to receive. Consciously now becoming aware of the heart center and allowing it to soften. Bringing your attention to the center of the head and allowing it to expand, let go, and soften. De-identifying with anything that you would identify as you. And feeling our feet flat on the ground as we breathe into the low belly and soften through the midline. We're going to feel into the bottom of each foot now and visualize little foot chakra spinning there, spinning open at the bottom center of each foot. like a hurricane or a tornado of light, spinning and spinning at the bottom center of each foot, and it spins wider and wider and wider until the hole in the tornado, the space at the center of the hurricane, is the only thing that remains, which then allows the electromagnetic field of the body to commune more directly with the electromagnetic field of the earth below our feet. And from that open space at the bottom of each foot, we're going to allow 500 energetic roots to extend from your essence down through each foot, sending 1,000 tree roots of light hundreds of miles down into the earth. And they'll spread out left and right and forward and back and straight down. 1,000 roots of light anchoring into the earth below. Extensions of your consciousness, extensions of your energy field. And as that continues to occur, we'll see a 1.5 foot wide grounding cord at the base of your spine. A 1.5 foot wide grounding cord anchoring, shooting, extending from the base of your spine all the way to the center of the earth. And as that grounding cord hits the center of the earth, we allow it to receive up through itself a river of divine light from the earth herself. An abundant, rushing, flowing river of nourishing, nurturing divine light from the earth, flowing up into that grounding cord, flooding the root chakra, flowing forward into each hip socket, flooding down through the quads and glutes, the hamstrings, down through the knees and shins, calves, ankles, and feet, rushing and flooding into the roots that extend below your feet now into the earth, hundreds of miles down, anchoring us in a tripod grounding structure of light, anchoring us to the here and now. Just give me 20 seconds to let this dog outside. If you can just stay with that anchoring and breathe into the low belly. I'll be right with you. Yeah, and as that anchoring continues to be what it is, it allows our hearts to soften even more and the belly to open even more fully. Amen. And from here, we do acknowledge the forces of light, softening the mind even more. Asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. Holy Spirit of God, protect me, please, from all forms of self-centeredness and direct my attention to the work at hand. Help me to know Brian Donald Scott in the light of the Akashic Records. Help me to see Brian Donald Scott through the eyes of the Lords of the Records. And enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of Brian Donald Scott have for Brian Donald Scott. And I'll just go quiet for a moment. Okay, and so as we anchor into the Akashic Records of Brian Donald Scott, referring to him, of course, by his legal name, we're asking for anything and everything in his field or mind that would stand in the way of him receiving the most useful, highest, and best guidance today, the most useful, highest, and best energetic downloads, frequencies, and or healing. We ask for all that to be taken, cleared, released, uncreated, destroyed. Okay. It's really interesting, Aeron. When I speak to you, I'll call you Aeron. And when I speak to them about you, I'll refer to Brian. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always an initial experience or imprint of getting in someone's records. And with you, it's just this vast expanse of very bright white light. Now, I take the white back. This vast expanse of very bright, clean, colorless light. It's like a sense of, you know what? Funny that we were talking about this before, but it's a sense of infinite possibility, and it's a sense of space, but it's a kind of activated space. If I were going to assign an astrological quality to it, it would be like a kind of Aries. Like if an Aries could, ascend or transcend time and space and have like, it's active and it's directive, but it's potent, but it's so light and bright that it's not even white. It's past white. It's into clear. So anyway, that's just an initial experience of dropping into your field. And so how would you frame any question you'd like to throw through this process?
The process, the plans and the work that I'm doing now, are there any traps or things that can take me off course that I can look at? Or
okay, and can you be more specific when you say the things I'm working on now, the process, the things I'm working on? What does that mean?
The building up building up all of the materials that I need, the going to the classes that I'm going to, the connecting with the people that I'm trying to connect with. Are there any, because especially with people that I'm trying to connect with, are there any issues or are there any connections that might be out there in a different direction?
Okay, that's a couple different questions at once. So we're going to go one at a time. Okay.
Thank you.
The first one is something like you're asking, and you tell me if this is correct. Are there any traps inside myself that would fuck with, as it were, the forward momentum of what I'm pursuing?
Yeah.
Okay, let me listen in for that first. So record keepers, we're looking for what pitfalls could he fall into? What self-limiting or sabotaging energies are there, if any? And so are there any? Okay, so you could fall into, okay, it's funny how everything lines up. Every episode, right? It's always magic, 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 like the order of the events of the conversation. So the Byron Katie work, if we frame it this way, your mind will replicate and run several lies regularly for you, okay? While you're down there. I'm too old, it's too late. And many versions of that we won't bother to repeat. When and if any of this arises, please come back to your spiritual alignment and know that the only thing that is true is sitting at the seat of the self in alignment with this vast, spacious realm of consciousness that is actually who you are, and make choices from there. The next piece we would suggest is remember that authenticity and integrity are very important, particularly for you. One of the things you'll bring to the table in this new context is sass, irreverence, creativity, humor, edge. Yes, but those are the human qualities that's the presentation of the personality of the ego structure that they need to see that, because that's how they cast on the type and the ego structure. Okay. But who they're working with is got to be a man of high integrity and high authenticity. That's the piece that will stand out differently and get you rehired and rehired and rehired. The guy who comes on set, and you know this already, who is perfect for the role, but is like a real fucking pain in the ass to deal with, is not someone they want to bring back, no matter how perfectly he fits the whatever. Now, of course, we know that when people succeed and they have a name, and that name will bring money to a project and eyes to the project, douchebags, as it were, can continue to get hired because of the money, and it's required, and that's how it goes. But we're talking about you on your, what is that word? Ascension, or on your moving up the ladderness. Another thing is, don't assume you need, boy, let's frame this correctly in a way you can. They're like, Brian, you have such connection to the all that is. Don't forget that the all that is the realm from which miracles are created, not that acting class you go to or don't go to. In other words, don't put the power in the hands of the outside people. The power is in the realm of the field of consciousness. You can go to one fill in the blank, coffee shop, gas station, Subway subs, and everything can change. But when you believe that the power is in that class and these people and that guy, that's where everyone in Los Angeles gets caught on the rat race of confusion forever. She's in the right class. She knew him. I have to know him. They have to go here. Nah, please, beloved, come back every morning and every afternoon, if you can stand it, to the seat of consciousness, to the space of light that is you and that animates you, and operate intuitively from there, only and forever. Only what is intuitive, fun, organic, and natural. Now, yes, you may ask questions like, what could I do today to forward my path? And then only do what is intuitive, organic, fun, and natural. Does all of this land make sense?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Any other hangups or pitfalls or things he needs to be aware of, or none? No, not really. Let me just sit for 1 second here. No, you know what? It's so funny. It's like, they're like, please, they're this begging energy. Please have fun. Please let this be fun. You have had so many times in the past where it's like you almost got to do all the fun, and not just the big time we discussed earlier, but there's many, this is a theme with you. It's like, please, just let it be fun. Have all the fun. Do the fun shit. If it's fun, do it. If it's very serious and real and serious, don't do it. And we're not talking about characters you play in a film. Like, sure, if it's fun for you to play a serious character, play the serious character. We're talking about, like, don't get caught in, I have to do this serious job now because I'm an adult and there's something about the doors, the timing in your life right now where it's almost like everything's wiped off the plate. There's nothing in the way, and anything in the way that would come in the way would only be something you would put there. You understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What else? That was question number 1. Help me remember the other questions, or go to wherever you'd like to go now.
Okay, I'm gonna just go to a completely different place, only because I'm just interested, because it always amazes me how every time I get any kind of reading, it except for the one time when I went into the gypsy fortune teller who told me I had a curse on my family and she would take it off. But every time I've had one, it's been what I knew.
Yeah.
But I really would like to tap in there and find out about me and my daughter, Olivia Grace Scott DeRouge. Can you do that?
Yeah. What would you like to know?
I just want to hear affirmation of that spark
Which spark?
between our energies and how I could best serve her.
Okay, that's a good question. That's useful. How can I best serve her? I'm writing this down. Olivia Grace Scott DeRouge.
Yeah, DAHROUGE.
What other questions do you have about her?
I don't know, man. When you have that perspective of there is no good, there is no bad, there's not really anything specifically. I just want want to speak on that. I just want to hear about
how can he. I'll start with how can he serve her best, and we'll see where we go. Lords, Masters, and Teachers of the records of Brian Donald Scott. Okay. He's wanting to know how can he best serve his daughter, Olivia Grace Scott DeRouge. All right. Would it serve us best here now to open her records? No, it's not necessary. Okay. Well, there's a piece about sense of humor and how you share that, and how you can help her when she gets too serious about stuff, come back to the levity of things. And she does it for you too. There's also a wisdom that you bring to her life that she needs. And she's tough and strong, like she's strong. So she plays like she doesn't need it a lot. I'm good. She wants the connection. She's happy about the connection, but she can seem like, I don't need this daddy wisdom thing, but she really, really soaks it in and loves it. And there's the spark of creativity, as you say, spark that you refer to. It's very creative. And there's a playfulness. Yeah. Is there anything else? So what does that open for you or make you want to ask or clarify or not clarify?
I guess just, I don't know, because, when you say that sense of humor, we just had a whole thing yesterday where she called up and she was very serious about, she took this, she's in her last year of college and she got a bad grade in one of her classes and she kind of started freaking out about it. And she was going to talk to him on Monday. And I just said, hey, don't worry about it. Just worry it. You can't do anything about it right now. Just wait till Monday, find out what you can. But it did really turn that around. And we do have that kind of relationship. And it's funny because there was a period of time where she really just didn't call me a lot. She didn't do a lot, communicate a lot. We, would talk every week, but lately she's been calling me like every day. So I know that she's getting to a place where she needs that connection. Yeah. And I just want to, affirm, because that's one of the things that did come up in the marriage, is that there was always this feeling, or there was a criticism that I got that I was too loose and, allowed her too many freedoms and didn't take things seriously enough. And I just disagree.
Yeah, that doesn't really read, because here's the thing. Like I said, or like they said a moment ago, it's like she needs the wisdom, and you know better than anyone that wisdom is deeply merged with and trained with levity and lightheartedness. It isn't a big deal. None of it is.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we're referring to when we say the sense of humor and the playfulness and the when we talk about the field of your consciousness, this light, expansive thing that you be, in the energetic realm, that's what she needs. She needs that sense of he's there for me, he nurtures me, he cares, and he's telling me these things from a life of experience. Something that works well for her is specific guidance, like what you said to her when you said, you know what, because you can't do anything about it until Monday anyway, there is no point in worrying.
Right.
You gave her the because, and then that helps her relax into the action to take, which is don't panic. Now, something else you could give her, I don't know if you're already doing this, it's going to depend on how receptive she is in the moment, is encouragement toward her own spiritual kind of practice and path.
Mm-hmm.
Because she could use some dissolving, as you've been discussing today, dissolving of the attachments to the stress points.
Mm-hmm.
Everything she thinks is a stress point isn't, but it is because she's attached to it. Maybe in part because of the programming of your ex-wife, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
right? And, listen, 8 thoughts at once. The stress points she believes in, you can help her understand how to sit inside of them and dissolve them. Don't be afraid to get technical with her about when you feel that stressy place, find it in your body and sit into it and let it melt away through whatever means, meditation, mantra repetition, the Michael channelings, whatever, right?
Whatever, right?
Yeah. So I also get for her, there's something about, let me let these words trickle in. Dharma, Kuan Yin, what's that? Not that. Dharma, Kuan Yin, dissolving, Zen meditation, Zen Buddhism. She could do well with some kind of practice in that world,
Mm-hmm.
in that kind of Buddhist Zen kind of world. Because for her, it's like she can feel into a thing and dissolve it. She doesn't know that yet, though, and she needs you to help her with it. But as you know, with parenting, you got to be gentle about how you push her towards it, right? You got to be like, I did this thing the other day and it like totally dissolved that for me. Or when I was 20, I learned how to do this thing and it really helped me out. If you ever want to try it, I can teach you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll take all that stress away. But, no big deal. And you just kind of keep it light.
Right. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, there's a hesitation here. We don't want to blame the ex-wife. We don't want to make her the problem or any of that. It's more just, her own patterning and her own childhood and her own stuff. And we all have stuff and
we all
it's
have
hard
our responsibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to be a person. And she taught what she taught, So love and light and all support to that soul.
Yeah.
What else on this topic or any other?
I think I'm kind of good. I think I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, this was just such a wonderful, pleasant conversation to have with the two of you. And just it was fun. It's just a lot of fun. And the information is, like I said, when you hear it happens every time. I remember I have a recording of when I got the reading from the guy who did the Michael. And there was one point at the end where I said, so can I just do what I want?
Yeah. Yeah. And what did he say?
That was my 24-year-old self saying, so what you're saying is, can I just do what I want? And he said, yeah, that's basically the idea.
Wow. That's awesome.
So yeah, you when you allow yourself to, you do know a lot. And when your mind doesn't let you know, or doesn't, wants to fuck with you and make your life more, eventful. Complicated, eventful.
Yeah.
Then it will do it.
Right. That's that trickiest addiction of all, right? Is to complexity.
Oh God.
It's
Yeah.
so complex. It's so thinky. It's so hard to figure out. It's not.
Yeah.
Not when we come from perception and awareness, which is of the body. It's not of the mind.
Right.
But you get that.
This is big fun. This has been big fun. I'm so glad you asked me to come on. You know,
thank you for joining us.
Before I asked if I could come on. That's how it first started. I want to be on that show.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to close your records. Unless, Cass, were you going to ask something?
It wasn't a question, so it's something I can say after you close the records.
Oh, okay, great. Let me just get them shut so I'm not living as you.
Okay.
I want to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I want to thank the lords of the records for their point of view, and the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. I ask you return all of Brian Donald Scott's energy to himself now, please. I ask that you return him to his complete human wholeness now. The divine portal and the Akashic records of Brian Donald Scott are now closed. Amen. Divine portal and the Akashic records of Brian Donald Scott are now closed. Amen. The divine portal and the Akashic records of Brian Donald Scott are now closed. Amen, amen, amen. Amen, amen, amen. Amen.
Oh, man.
Thank you.
Boy, I'm glad those records are closed so I don't have to hear that name again.
Oh, yeah.
I swear to God,
Okay.
I don't think that I have heard my full name said out loud since I was, since my mother went, Brian Donald Scott, when I did something bad when I was a kid.
That's terrible.
Yeah, how do you get your name changed legally in the Akashic records? You don't give a shit about, like, is there any way I could apply to the Bureau of Akashic Records to get that name changed? What I was just going to say is, it's this one, those moments for me of, flashes of connection to the all that is. And I think I get them sometimes viscerally in other people's experiences sometimes. And I saw one, I get teared up saying it. When you start asking about your daughter, I saw this thing come over your face and your eyes took on this quality for just a second. I was like, oh, that's love. Like, it was really powerful sweep of simple love that I just wanted to comment on because I saw it and it was really deep. So,
yeah.
And then when you were saying that, Katie, you both were just saying this stuff, I was like, it's actually pretty simple and fuck that complicated brain bullshit. And so I'm just connecting those two thoughts of like being able to experience just a sweep of something that was really deep and visceral that had no brain on it for me. And I saw it in connection to you and your connection to your daughter. So
yeah. And the life she's had so far, it's been a lesson for all of us. I mean, she has gone through so much, and there were so many things that happened as she was growing up with people around us that I related to so much. And I think that that's kind of what you were talking about being that light and that kind of sounding board or giving her advice, because so many people were going, one of my ex-wife's favorite phrases was, she's circling the drain. And I'd go, are you seeing the same person that I'm seeing? I'm seeing a teenager who's struggling, who's having a hard time because she's pretty and she's going to a private school and we don't really have that much money. And so she's got all these rich kids. Nobody wants to talk to her because she's pretty and everybody likes her. And so the kids, so she's not circling the drain. She's just working shit out. And that's that's why I said with the 3 mothers and 3 fathers when I was growing up, that's all I heard when I was growing up is, what's wrong with him? Oh my God, what's going to become of him? He's going to, and I was like, I'm actually pretty okay.
Yeah. This makes me think of something else we sort of touched on, but sort of didn't touch on, which is, we were talking, remember when I was sort of sarcastically, but also really sincerely saying, like, I have an answer to the identity question. I have so much to say about it, in fact, but this sort of relates to it in the sense of like, and I'm just going to stay inside for this because I get this. It's a little downloady. It's like, some of us are here to break the molds. We are here to be not of the culture. We are not here to do what the people do. We're here to show the people you don't have to do what the programming of the culture says. You don't have to do that. And you are a mold breaker in that way. Aeron, that's your essence. It's not even about your personality, and it's not about what you do with your time and your arms and your actions. It's about what you carry is this mold breaking, infinite possibility, energy, frequency of light that triggers everyone around you when you're a kid and they're trying to, quote, parent you, and they're very attached and married to the judgments of the culture. Your energy field, without you saying a word even, then I'm sure you were saying words and doing actions, but your energy field in and of itself is going to shatter the glass of their reality. And the one of my main goals in life is to be I should reframe that. A piece of my dharma that I get reminded by the divine all the time is that I get to be a loud voice in the support team of all mold shatterers, that there is nothing wrong with you, and there never was anything wrong with you for doing it differently and for not following logic and for following what your intuition and doing what you want and having fun. That's what I'm here to remind us all of, is that not only is there nothing wrong, but without you, the programming of the world would continue to win. We're looking to transcend programming. We're looking to liberate the people and the population. And that's what you do by being an example of, I just felt like going, so I went. That breaks all the fucking cultural structures. And that's why, and you said as an artisan, it's like you do the things, and that is the doing. The thing is the doing of the thing. It's not like what got created, the movie. It's about that you did it.
Right.
For you
being a part of it.
Yeah.
And do you remember, Cassidy, the second question that I put in there? And that's kind of what we're touching on.
Are we here to teach the ignorant or something like that?
Right. It was basically, we're all trying to relearn ourselves. So how do we connect with the ignorant? The people who don't get that. And I think that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that there are people out there who need us, who need people to come along and go, just because it says so in the handbook, doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it. That's
right. And also, you very wisely at the start of this said, some of us, the way we teach the ignorant is through making. And some of us, the way we teach the ignorant is through talking. And through some of us, so you're doing enough, and you're doing more than enough by living into what's true for you. There was a thing too inside of when they were talking about, okay, remember when they said the thing about, when you go to LA, don't let it get so heavy and the serious and the job. Has to do with job stuff, because if you do the serious, important job that isn't what you want to do, if it isn't what you want to do, you're no longer doing your spiritual teaching work. Because your spiritual teaching work is by following what's true for you.
Right.
And then people look at you and go, he just fucking did what he wanted. Do you know how game shattering that is for how many ignorance?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's the jam. That's the business. And then lastly, just on that, because they won't let me leave this idea, we can wrap up here. Identity. You are the field of infinite possibility, each of you. And the form that your body, mind, organism takes lives into the types and the archetypes you discussed at the beginning. But even those are not rigid blocks that you have to stay within. You are the realm of infinite possibility, each of you. And so from that realm, what do you choose? That's the question, not who am I? What do I identify with? No. What do you choose? From the realm of infinite possibility, what would you like to choose? See how it's an entirely different question than, am I an actor? Am I a husband? Am I a banker? Nobody's essence is ever a banker. You may choose to bank for reasons that you choose to believe in, but it's always choice. Now, does that negate the fact that certain people have different dharmic roles and things they need to do? It does not negate that, because some human beings are here to do very specific things, and some human beings are here to be very specific energies. It's not one size fits all. It's not everybody has a specific purpose. Some people's purpose is love more. Some people's purpose is wrap up all that karma from that past life. Some people's purpose is you definitely need to be an energy healer. So it's not there's a thing that is you, unless there is.
That's what I love about all this
The only
stuff.
absolute is that there are no absolutes.
Yeah. The only thing constant is change. Time is just Mother Nature's way of keeping everything from happening at the same time.
Oh, I like that. I have to hop off. You're a delight, Aeron.
This was
Thank
fun. You are as well.
Thank you so
love
much.
meeting you. Anytime you want to talk again, I'm up for it because I love this
Hooray.
shit.
Great. Super
can't wait.
fun. Aeron, let's talk soon. I want
Cassidy,
to
I
hear
love
about
you.
what's going on.
Yeah, come
Get
on
together.
down to the Legionnaire.
All right. I'll be there.
Do your work, everybody.
Do your work. Bye.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you.
You gave the awe sound as you looked, which makes me believe you didn't actually feel awe. You just said
remember,
awe.
there's a bit of a delay, but I mean, it's a microsecond, but it was enough.
My dog. I adore you. I awe you. I guess we'll cut this section out, Desmond, if you don't mind.
Yeah. It's boring.
That was a Sounds Awesome production.